20 years of trying, is this the year Kyle Busch finally wins the Daytona 500? Let's talk about that and a whole lot more this morning. Daytona 500 week. I am joined now by Ryan Stevens, wintherace.info, first preview episode of the new year. Ryan, how you doing, man? How was your off season?
Great. I'm pumped for the Daytona 500 to finally be here. I mean, I get a little teased with the clash there. The community at Win the Race has been, buzzing. We're all kind of ready for the season to start. So we have cars on the track tonight. We're recording this Wednesday morning. We're just excited. The off season was great. It was a good kind of mental reset. But, I've been working on the website since November. So, it doesn't really stop. Took one little vacation. I know you got married. Congratulations again, and went on a honeymoon and all that. So I know you had a little break too. But yeah, we're back. Let's get back at it.
Yeah, breaks were nice, but they are short-lived in the NASCAR world. We're back for 38 of the next 39 weeks, really 39 straight weeks, because even Easter weekend, The Rock for Xfinity and trucks. We're not talking about that just yet, though. Let's talk about, you mentioned it tonight, cars are on track. Wednesday night, Daytona 500 pole qualifying. I figured we should at least start with this. 9 drivers are attempting to lock into the field. There are 4 spots up for grabs. That's sort of an asterisk because obviously Helio Castroneves is locked in no matter what, so kind of confusing. I want to ask you real quick, Ryan, who is the favorite to lock in on speed tonight, in your opinion?
I think we got to talk about Justin Allgaier. There's a lot of talk that this is basically a 5th Hendricks car coming in here. Greg Ives, there's a lot working in his favor here. And even, being with Junior, Junior in Unreal, one of the best ever at Daytona driver. So, I mean, Allgaier's got to be one of the favorites. And I don't know if you can, when you edit this video, if you can put a picture of that Traveler's Whiskey car up there, but it is a beautiful, beautiful car. I think a lot of people are pulling for Allgaier there. So I think he's the favorite to get in on speed.
Yeah, I like Justin Allgaier. Greg Ives in particular, I believe, has won the pole for the Daytona 500 3 times. He's been on the front row another 3 or 4 times. For years there, Greg Ives, you could count on him to qualify on the front row. Justin Allgaier doesn't need to win the pole tonight to lock into the show. He just needs to be faster than Truex, Jimmy Johnson, Helio, Anthony Alfredo. I like Justin Allgaier for sure to lock in on speed. I like both those Chevys. Trackhouse with Helio Castroneves, I think they will be fast. Hendrick power is important. But we saw last year in qualifying, it was the Fords on the front row with Logano and Michael McDowell. Hendrick cars qualified 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So they were still there. They were still competitive. I guess we'll also look ahead to the dual race. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was able to race his way in last year. Martin Truex Jr. will be his Toyota teammate. We'll see how the entry list for each duel stacks up. What kind of teammate support will you have in your event? But, outside of Justin Allgaier, who else do you feel has a good chance to sort of sneak their way in, either on speed or Thursday night?
I think you got to look at Corey LaJoie. This is someone who, in the next gen era, and even before that, has been a great drafting racer in the Cup Series. We typically have seen him, working his way from the back up through the field, near the front, great in the draft. So LaJoie is one that I think can race his way in to the big show. That's one that I really got my eye on.
Yeah, and it's a Rick Ware Racing car he's driving. I know it's the 01 stacking pennies, but we've seen Rick Ware Racing with Cody Ware, with other drivers in the past. Riley Herbst has been fairly competitive in these super speedway races. I like that pick. One stat, I think you pointed this out to me before we started, but Jimmy Johnson last year did race his way in through the duels, but in single car qualifying, he was 35th. So I look at the Tricon Toyota for Truex, the Legacy Toyota for Johnson, and I think, man, you got to focus on race trim and hope for the best Thursday night, or else it could be a rough showing down in Daytona. Ryan, we can move on from qualifying for now because by the time most people are watching this, they're already turning their attention towards the race itself. The Great American Race, Sunday afternoon on Fox. I want to talk power rankings. It's very difficult to predict who exactly is going to be out front or in that lead draft, first couple of rows, closing in on the checkered flag, but it's a little easier to predict which manufacturers might be in control of the race. So I want to get your manufacturer power rankings, super speedway power rankings. I have mine. If you want, I'll go through mine real quick, and I want to see where we compare.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Ford at number one. Austin Cindric last year led like almost 200 laps at drafting tracks. Michael McDowell led 167 laps in a Ford last year. Blaney's great. Todd Gilliland shocked us early in the year. Harrison Burton won the summer Daytona race. So I feel like Ford has to be number one in speed. Then I would go Chevy because strength in numbers. There are more Chevys than any other car in the field. They've won a lot of super speedway races in recent years. William Byron, of course, is the defending Daytona 500 champ. Kyle Busch, been really strong. I'll ask you more about him in a few moments. And then I put Toyota last. They've added some cars to their roster. There's not 5 of them, 6 of them on an island anymore, but it's still tough. I mean, Tyler Reddick won Talladega last year because 3 Fords choked it on the final corner. So those are my power rankings. Ford, then Chevy, then Toyota. Do you think I'm off base, or is there any additional data, stats, insight you could maybe provide?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that's the general consensus, and that is correct. The twist here is that we're at Daytona. So, yes, these cars can run up front, but some things can go wrong, as you mentioned when Tyler Reddick won. So I'll just say, without a doubt, Ford has been dominant on the tracks. You know, last year, this was crazy. Front Row Motorsports, Michael McDowell last year in 6 drafting races, his average qualifying position was 1.17. That's just silly. It's insane. And then his teammate, Gilliland, 4.33, tied with Logano for second best qualifiers. Logano, another Ford. Behind them, Austin Cindric, like you said, another Ford. So these guys are qualifying up front. That means they're running up front. 6 of the top 10 cars in true average running position on drafting tracks last year were Fords.
Wow.
So they qualify well, but then we get to this point where, okay, we're at Daytona. Things are going to get a little weird, or any drafting track, and we'll use last year as an example. So they all ran up front, but if we look at average finishing position in those races, here's how it starts at the top: Chevy, 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 Toyota, Toyota, Chevy, Toyota, and then you finally get to a Ford with Brad Keselowski.
Wow.
So yes, the Fords are qualifying well. Yes, they're running up front. Yes, they could, luck could be on their side this time and they could all finish well, but it hasn't happened. It's been the Chevys and Toyotas that have been finishing well, with the Fords kind of, like you said, kind of fumbling it away at the end there. So I would say your rankings are correct. Ford and Chevy, have to be on top. Just strength in numbers, as you said, and that qualifying from Ford. I'm real curious to see if they can keep that momentum going tonight. They were just absolutely dominant last year. But I know, Hendricks probably has a little something for him tonight. I think I just have a sneaky feeling that Larson's going to win the pole. That's just what I feel, but we'll see what happens. And then, yeah, Toyota lagging behind. In wins last year in the 6 races, Chevy won 3 times, Ford won twice, Toyota won 1. So, yeah, Toyota was behind.
And I think, I'll have to double check this in the edit, but I believe Tyler Reddick at Talladega was Toyota's first and so far only super speedway win in the next gen era. Like, that's crazy.
Whoa, yeah.
Denny Hamlin.
I'd have to check that.
Yeah, let me check. It's so crazy. I'm probably wrong. It sounds wrong, but I mean, Denny Hamlin is a 3-time Daytona 500 champion in the previous generation of car. He's led laps, been up front, but never been in position to capitalize. So yeah. Toyota's had a hard time finding the speed, but Ford with the speed has had a hard time finishing these races. I want to talk about a Chevrolet driver. This is my favorite narrative coming into the weekend. Kyle Busch, driving for Richard Childress Racing, is making his 20th Daytona 500 start, still looking for his first Harley J. Earl trophy. He was leading last year at the end of 500 miles, but lost ultimately in overtime, a lot of late race shenanigans. Race ended under caution. Kyle then was second in the summer Daytona race, second to Harrison Burton. So what do the numbers say? Is Kyle Busch maybe the favorite to win this race?
Well, at Win the Race, Greg Mathern and I, we put a lot of time and effort into the advanced analytics and everything that we put, the inputs that go into our 20,000 simulations of a race. And when it spit out the favorite, it was Kyle Busch, coming in fair between, 10 and 11 to 1. So beyond what we put into it, it makes for a great story. Like you said, I mean, he's tried, 20 plus times here, hasn't happened. I know there's a lot of people who, disliked Kyle Busch for a long time. I'm hoping that maybe people are past that now after, he didn't win a race last year. We can kind of get back to rooting for him and a good story. It is NASCAR. I don't know if that'll happen, but I'm rooting for Kyle Busch. I think that'll be fun. It's a cool storyline. And yeah, I mean, the numbers align with the heart here. The heart wants to see it because it'll be fun, but the numbers also back it up. So yeah, I think Kyle Busch is definitely live on Sunday.
Yeah, and he has a super speedway win since joining RCR. It was almost 2 years ago, granted, at Talladega. But yeah, Kyle Busch, that's great to hear the numbers back it up because I'm with you. I'd love to see that storyline. Not to get too far off in the weeds, but for a while there, it was all about chasing Dale Earnhardt. Kyle got to 60 wins trying to chase down Earnhardt's 76, has a couple championships, never going to get 7, but has a couple of titles, a strong resume of his own, the 200 plus overall NASCAR wins. But obviously the wins have been fewer and far between the past couple of years. Now we're questioning if Kyle Busch will ever get to that 76 win mark. Winning the Daytona 500 would be another notch in his belt towards chasing Dale Sr., I suppose. But we can move on. I'll talk about another Chevy driver real quick. I feel like this guy's flying under the radar. He won this race last year, for goodness sake. Has a beautiful, bright, Jeff Gordon-esque flame scheme this weekend. William Byron, I believe, another stat I'll have to double check. I wrote some of these down in the dead of night, so I was a little delirious when I wrote some of these down. I believe he is the winningest super speedway driver in the next gen era, assuming we count Atlanta. He has a couple of Atlanta wins on his resume. So no one has gone back-to-back since Denny Hamlin in 2019-2020. Before that, I think you have to go back to the 90s with Sterling Marlin. Could William Byron make it back-to-back Daytona 500 victories? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you have to decide, like, he did one of two things last year. He either has gotten great at surviving with his, 4 top 10 finishes in the 6 drafting races, or he lucked out. That's the hard part. I mean, the numbers would say that he's good. He spent almost half his time in those drafting races running inside the top 10. So,
Wow.
yeah, he's up there. You just have to survive. There's other people who are doing the same thing. Um, 6 drivers ran more of their laps inside the top 10 than him, and none of them had 4 top 10 finishes. So that's where it kind of comes back to this, like, either positive or negative regression here. Um, I think it's a little bit of luck. Chris Bell is another one that comes to mind there. The difference between him and Bell is Bell hasn't really been running all those laps inside the top 10. He just kind of looks out and survives and gets there at the end. And he had, 4 top 10s in those races as well. But Byron, I'd say, more skilled, and that's shown because he qualifies well. He runs up there. And he did get lucky. Some of his teammates can't say the same thing last year. I don't know. I think we show value in the sims that we did, the 20,000 simulations. His number for betting is in the 20s, and we have it down in the teens. So we would say, yeah, Byron might be a good bet to win the race here. But there's that thing in your mind, like you said, can he go back to back? And I just think that it just adds a whole other element. It's so tough to go back to back here.
Yeah, it's challenging for sure. But if anyone can do it, Hendrick Motorsports Power. Before I let you go, Ryan, you teased something to me before we get started. You had some head-to-head matchups I think you wanted to discuss or share with me. What do you got for me this afternoon?
Well, it's funny that we just talked about Byron because there's 2 funny things Greg had discovered about William Byron here at Daytona. And we were talking about head-to-head matchups. So I'll ask you. So William Byron and BJ McLeod have raced against each other at Daytona 10 times. What do you think their head-to-head record is?
Like who's finished ahead of who more often?
Yeah, out of 10 races.
Oh, this feels like a trick. It has to be BJ McLeod, I guess. But I mean, I know there are drivers like Cody Ware, for example, has a pretty good super speedway average finish. I know largely because he hangs in the back, misses the big wrecks until the end. So I feel like you're baiting me. I'll go BJ.
Yeah, BJ's 8-2 in that matchup.
Okay, I would have thought like 6-4 maybe. 8-2.
8-2. It just shows you how crazy Daytona is. Now you just
Holy
mentioned
hell.
Cody Ware too. Cody Ware has raced against William Byron 7 times at Daytona. Cody Ware 5-2 against William Byron.
So
We'll throw one other one out because we mentioned BJ McLeod as well. So Ryan Blaney versus BJ McLeod. Blaney, one of the favorites every time we head to a drafting track, or any track really for Ryan Blaney. BJ McLeod has raced against him 10 times at Daytona and is winning 6-4.
Dang.
So anything can happen here. That's what makes it fun. But then when you ask, can he go back to back? Man, I'm just thinking no. But the numbers, if you just were to sim it out, yeah, it's going to show some value there. But
Yeah.
man, so tough to go back to back here. So tough to even win these matchups and survive. That's what makes it such an awesome race.
Yeah, if anyone, I would say Byron has the best chance since Denny Hamlin to go back to back, because with all due respect to Michael McDowell or Austin Cindric, who is a great super speedway racer with a great team, or Ricky Stenhouse, for a few years there we had Daytona 500 winners that I would classify as surprise winners. Byron last year wasn't a surprise by any means, so. And I wouldn't say it would be a surprise this year if he were to get the win again. So best chance since Denny, but yeah, going back to back, that's a long shot. That's tough. Ryan, this was awesome. I feel like we covered a lot of ground ahead of this year's Daytona 500. Your work, of course, over at wintherace.info. You guys have a lot of really cool things you've been working on all off season. You teased earlier. Can you tell the fans at home a little more of maybe what they can expect?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, this is such a fun race to talk about. I feel like we covered so many fun things. Over at wintherace.info, Greg and I were simulating races 20,000 times. That's also fueling, fair market value for all the bets out there, for our daily fantasy projections, or even if you're playing, leagues. I have people tell me all the time they're playing in a friendly league or something, and they've beaten their family members, they've beaten their friends, and just using the data on the site. So that's always fun to hear. The Discord's really fun. All the members are really cool people. It's a nice little tight-knit community over there. So it's wintherace.info, and then we're doing a new show called The Draft every Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern. We did it last night because of the practice qualifying tonight, but throughout the year it'll be Wednesday nights. So check that out. It's live on X and on YouTube, and the YouTube is at Win the Race P1. So thank you. Really appreciate this. It's been fun.
No, absolutely appreciate your time. I think I told you this last year, but I can be a strong I can give a strong endorsement of the data you guys are producing. I think I told you this last year, but every year me and the guys on NWP, the Iceberg, Danny B, we do our race picks, and every year we've done this show, like 3 or 4 years in a row, I finished second in points at the end of the year. But last season, I got connected with you, Greg, did these segments every single week, had more insight, more data, more context than ever before, and your boy finally broke through and got P1 on the in our pick points. So this was again, for fantasy players out there, everything in between. These guys know their stuff for sure. This is awesome. Well, Ryan, really appreciate your time. We'll catch up again, I'm sure many more times throughout the season. Enjoy Daytona, and we'll talk to you again soon.
I'm looking forward to it. Have fun this weekend.